Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Hasliana Binti Hassan with matrix number S58528. So I just want to share with you about on how I'm solving 3 questions of my individual assignments were given just now. Alright, on this video I will explain briefly about 3 important chapter in manufacturing accounting 1, and it is basically much easier to ask for than it. Which is about manufacturing, job order costing, and process costing. For question number 1 with topic of manufacturing, there was a data given to solve a 2 format of income statement, which is traditional format and contribution format income statement. First, to solve traditional format income statement, sales should be 12,000 ringgit. Cost of goods sold equal to 6,000 ringgit. To get the amount of gross margin, sales should be minus with cost of goods sold and equal to 6,000 ringgit. For selling and administrative expenses, selling amount should be total of variable selling plus fixed selling equal to 3,100. For administrative expense, variable administrative plus fixed administrative. Total of selling and administrative expenses, selling should be plus with administrative, and we get 5,000 ringgit. To get net operating income, gross margin minus with selling and administrative expenses, the total of selling and administrative expenses, and equal to 1,000 ringgit. For contribution format income statement, sales should be 12,000 ringgit, whereas variable expenses, cost of goods sold 6,000 ringgit, variable selling 600 ringgit, variable administration 400 ringgit, and the amount total of variable expenses, cost of goods sold plus 600 ringgit for variable selling and plus with variable administration. Contribution margin 12,000 ringgit minus variable expenses, and we get 5,000 ringgit for contribution margin. For fixed expenses, fixed selling should be 2,500 ringgit, and fixed administrative should be 1,500 ringgit. Total of fixed expenses, fixed selling should be plus with 1,000 fixed administrative. To get the net operating income, contribution margin should minus with fixed expenses, total of fixed expenses, and equal to 1,000 ringgit. And the amount of net operating income for these 2 format, for traditional format income statement and contribution format income statement, should be same, which is 1,000 ringgit. Alright, we move to the next question. In this part, we need to solve 5 important steps to answer the job order costing questions. From the data given, there was 2 departments, which is milling and assembly, and cost driver for milling is machine hour, whereas for assembly is direct labor hours. Firstly, for step 1, estimate total manufacturing overhead cost for each department for milling and assembly. Total fixed manufacturing overhead cost, the amount should be, we only took from the data given, 290,000 ringgit, and for assembly 500,000 ringgit. For variable manufacturing overhead per machine hour or direct labor hour for milling, the amount should be 2 ringgit per machine hour, and assembly 3 ringgit 75 cent per direct labor hour. Total machine hour or direct labor hour, the amount should be for milling 60,000 machine hour, and for assembly 80,000 per direct labor hour. Total variable manufacturing overhead, the amount should be variable manufacturing overhead per machine hour or direct labor hour should be times with total machine hour or direct labor hour. And total manufacturing overhead for milling, which is plus the total fixed manufacturing overhead costs with total variable manufacturing overhead. And we got the amount for milling 510,000 ringgit, and for assembly 800,000 ringgit. For step 2, total manufacturing overhead for milling, we just took the amount from the previous step for assembly also. And total machine hour or direct labor hour for milling is 60,000, and for assembly 80,000. And to get the predetermined overhead rate for machine hour or direct labor hour, total manufacturing overhead should be divided with total machine hour or direct labor hour. And we got the amount for milling 8 ringgit 50 cent and assembly 10 ringgit. For the next step, we determine overhead rate for machine hour or direct labor hour for milling. We took the amount from the previous steps, and same goes to assembly. For machine hour or direct labor hour for the job, we took the amount from the cost summary for job 407 for milling 90 for machine hour, and assembly 20 per direct labor hour. To get manufacturing overhead apply, we determine overhead rate per machine hour or direct labor hour should be times with machine hour or direct labor hour for the job. And we get the amount for milling 765 ringgit and assembly 200 ringgit. For step 4, to estimate total job cost for job 407, direct materials, we only took from the data given for milling, and for assembly direct labor hour cost 70 ringgit for milling, and for assembly 280 ringgit. For manufacturing overhead apply, we just took the amount from the previous step, which is for milling 765 ringgit and assembly 200 ringgit. So the total, we just sum up the total of direct materials for milling and assembly. Same goes with direct labor costs for milling and assembly. To get the total, we sum up all the total for direct materials, direct labor costs, and manufacturing overhead applied. And we get the total job cost for the last step. Calculate the selling price for job 407. The total cost of job 407, the amount should be 2,485 ringgit. We only took the amount from the previous steps. Step 4. For markup, the amount should be total cost of job 407 times with markup on job cost on the data given, 75%, and equal to 1,863 ringgit 75 cent. For selling price of job 407, we only plus the amount of total cost of job and markup. And we get the amount 4,348 ringgit and 75 cent. We move to the last question on process costing. There are several information and the data given. Firstly, for equivalent units of production under weighted average method, for units transferred to the next department for materials, the amount can be found by beginning work in process inventory, unit in process 200 times with units started into production during the period and minus ending work in process inventory, unit in process, and equal to 4,800. Same goes to conversion cost. For equivalent units in ending work in process of inventory for materials, the amount should be unit in process and ending work in process inventory times with completion with respect to materials 40% and equal to 160. For conversion, it's also same. For equivalent units of production, we just added the unit transfer and equivalent units. So we got 4,960 for materials and conversion 4,900. Next, for cost per equivalent unit, cost of beginning work in process inventory for materials should be 9,600, and for conversion 5,575 ringgit. For cost added during the period, we only took the information from the data given for material and for conversion costs. and total cost. Sum up the cost of beginning work in process and cost added during the period. For materials, and conversion costs. For equivalent units of production, we only took the amount from the equivalence units. To get the cost per equivalent unit, total cost should be divided by equivalent units of production, and same goes to conversion costs. Alright, for cost of ending work in process inventory and the units transfer out, for materials, ending work in process inventory for equivalent units should be 160, and for conversion cost 100. For cost per equivalent unit, we just took this amount. To get the cost of ending work in process of inventory, the equivalent units should be times with cost per equivalent unit. To get the total, we only sum up the amount for materials and conversion. And we get 19,475 ringgit for total cost of ending work in process inventory. For units completed and transferred out to the next department, units transferred to the next department is we took the amount here, same goes with this. For cost per equivalent unit, we only took the amount. To get the cost of unit transfer out, unit transfer to the next department should be times with cost per equivalent units. And the total cost we just added materials and conversion amount. Alright, for cost reconciliation, cost to be accounted for. First, cost of beginning work in process inventory. The amount of materials and conversion, we just add to get one amount. Same goes with cost added to production during the period for materials and conversion costs. And total cost to be accounted for, cost of beginning work in process plus cost added to production during the period. For cost accounted for as follows: cost of ending work in process inventory, we only took the total here in cost of ending work in process inventory and units transfer out, and same goes to cost of units transfer out. And total cost accounted for is cost of ending work in process plus cost of unit transfer out, and the amount of the total cost should be tally. Thank you.